I seriously just recorded a 20-minute video and there was no sound at all. So this is take 2. Cannot believe I just recorded for 20 minutes and it's like without sound. So hopefully this one works. Okay, so you need your paper, your notes. See, look, I did the whole video and yeah, so here we go, starting over. Okay, so your title is going to be slope and y-intercept. Another name for slope that you will definitely see is rate of change. Make sure you fill out that part. Make sure you put in your essential question. And I numbered these originally because equations is going to be section 1. Graphs is going to be section 2. Make sure you have room for your question and your answer. And then on the back, tables is going to be section 3. So you should have 3 questions and 3 answers. And then make sure your summary is 3 to 4 sentences. And FYI, the bell is going to ring during this video because I'm going to go over. Okay, so here you go. We are going to start with equations. There are a couple things that you guys do not know about yet, so I'm going to write those down. One thing is you are going to need to know this little formula right here. Y minus y, x minus x, super, super, super important. And you are going to need to know this, y equals mx plus b, okay? This m is your slope. This b is your y-intercept, okay? You're going to need to know that. So we are going to start with equations first. So if my first equation was y equals 2x plus 3, that is one way you could see it. You could also see it written as y equals 2x. Notice one has extra on the end, one doesn't. If you remember from what we've been working on, this part right here would be non-proportional, and this equation right here would be proportional. So if there's anything extra on the end, it is non-proportional. If there's no extra on the end, if there's extra on the end, if there's no extra on the end, it's proportional. Okay. So if I wanted to know what my slope was here and what my y-intercept was, I could look over here. I know that my m is my slope, so on this one, my slope would be 2. Now you have 2 options. On this one, there's no y-intercept. You don't say 0, because if you said 0, it would have a plus 0 on the end. We don't put a plus 0. Like if I said my slope was 0, my y-intercept, I would have plus 0 on the end. We don't write plus 0 on the end. So this one has no y-intercept. This one right here would be 3. Now, the difference between this two is when there is no intercept, it is basically crossing through 0. So if you technically want to write plus 0 on the end of this, because that helps you, you can do that. But any answer choices or any job you might have that works with slope, you will never see the equation written as plus 0 at the end. This one would actually cross through my 3. So like on this one, my slope, my y-intercept would be 0 or would be none. And then my y-intercept on this one would cross at 9. Okay, so you're going to need to know this equation and you're going to need to know which one is slope and which one's for y-intercept. On the equation, the first one in front of x is your slope. If you have anything on the extra, it's y-intercept. If you have an equation that has a fraction or decimal, this whole fraction would be your slope, okay? All right, go ahead and write your question and your answer, and then we're gonna move on to graphs. Now, graphs are a little bit trickier. Okay, so on this one, you're gonna need to know this equation right here. So I have this y minus y and x minus x. Here's what that means. you are basically going to take two coordinate points. And I want to show you how you're going to pick your coordinate points. I'm just going to draw on the back and I'm going to write on the bottom. If I have a graph that looks like this, and I have these coordinate points. I have one here, I have one here, I have one here, I have one here, and I have one here. You're only going to pick the coordinate points that are on the corner. So a corner is where two lines meet. Look, there's a line, this one's on a corner, this one's on a corner, and this one is on a corner. This one is not in a corner, and this one is not in the corner, it's in the middle. So you're always pick a corner point. It needs to meet on the corner. It'll be so much easier because you know exactly what the numbers are going to be. So going back to this one right here, these I believe are actually all on a corner. This is a corner, this is a corner, this is a corner, and this is a corner. So those are definitely on corners. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down what our coordinate points are. So this coordinate point is 6, 1. And this coordinate point is 18, 3. And you can use any two coordinate points. They don't have to be next to each other, just whichever two you want to use. I'll use coordinate points that have smaller numbers just because the math is going to be a little bit easier. So as you know with coordinate points, you always have x and you have y. So this is my x, this is my y, this is my x, this is my y. So on the top, we're going to do y subtract y. So I would start with the top one, 1 subtract 3. So I have 1 subtract 3. And then my x, since I started with 1 here, I have to start with 6 here. I cannot start with 1 here and then jump down here and start with 18 here. If I started at the top coordinate point, I'll start at that one. So then it's going to be 6 minus 18. Okay, so 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And 6 minus 18, 18, 7, 6, 50, is negative 12. Now, I have a negative and a negative. A negative divided by a negative or multiplied by a negative is a positive. So that my slope here is going to be a positive number, and then I'm going to reduce this. It would reduce to 1/6 because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So this would be a positive 1/6. Now our slope right here would be, our y-intercept would be 0. So here is how I would write this as an equation. Y equals, remember, your m is your slope. Our slope is 1/6. So it'd be 1/6x. Our y-intercept would be 0. We don't write to 0. So if we wrote this as an equation, it would look just like that. All right, moving on to our next one. Now, this one does not give us coordinate points, so we're going to write them down. But if I notice right here, the easiest thing to always find is a y-intercept, so that's what I always find first. Now, if you were not paying attention to the intervals, you would get this wrong. That means 6 periods over. You would get this wrong. If you counted 1, 2, 3, and you said that the y-intercept is 3, you would be wrong. You have to look at the intervals. It's going up by 2. Actually, I'll take that back. It's going up by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. So my y-intercept on this one is 9, and now we need to find our slope. So we can use that coordinate point because it's a corner, and then let's just use this one right here. So we're going to write our two coordinate points. This one is 0, 9, and then this one is 2, 3. So remember, we do y minus y over x minus x. So it would be, this is x, this is y, so 9 subtract 3, and then 0 subtract 2. Equals 9 subtract 3 is 6, 0 subtract 2 is negative 2. Now, if you notice on this one we had a negative and a negative, which cancels out to a positive. But if you notice on this one we have one negative. If you have one negative just on the top or one negative just on the bottom, it makes the whole entire number negative, and then you need to reduce it. So this is going to be our slope right here. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and because we have that negative, it's going to be a negative 3. Okay? So if I wanted to write this as an equation, it would be y equals, we have our m as slope, so negative 3x plus 9. Okay, now here's what this slope means. This slope right here basically means from point to point. Actually, I'll go over that at another time. I'll go over that another time. I have to do a rise over one question. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do our next one. This one crosses the y-intercept at negative 15. So my y-intercept is negative 15. And then we want to do our slope, which we use y minus y, x minus x. Point here, and it already tells us the numbers. So this one's going to be 0 minus negative 15. I wrote it exactly like that. Negative, subtract a negative. You don't just put a negative, it's subtract a negative. And then we do 3 subtract 0. If I were to use my calculator, 0 minus negative 15 is a positive 15. So this is 15 over 3. Reduce and we get 5. So our y-intercept right here is 5. So our equation on this one would be y equals, oh, sorry, this is not y-intercept. Sorry, this is slope. Sorry, doing this video twice. Okay, y equals slope is 5, so it would be 5x minus 15 would be our equation on this one. Okay. All right, go ahead and write your question on this one and then your answer on this one, and we're moving on to tables.